Hey, what's happening? Episode 119. I am Shaine, and I am happy to have our guest today, Patrick MacFarlane of Liberty Weekly. And he's also over at the Libertarian Institute. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Glad to be with you, Shaine.
Yeah, it's been too long. I know the last time that we had spoken like this was when we were doing just our live streams on YouTube. And so it's been a while. So I'm glad we're able to do this again.
Yeah. Did you have episode numbers then, or were you just doing live streams?
No, it was just discussions. That's kind of what we labeled them as. They weren't episodes. Yeah, they were just discussions or whatever. So, so have you on because we have quite a bit of stuff that we wanted to get over, and so the first thing that I wanted to bring up with you is something that Joe Biden has been, his administration has been talking about doing some actions with gun control and everything like that. And so I just wanted to show from this Facebook page called Unbiased America, they kind of go through a rundown. Now, this is from April 7th, and of course, as we're recording this is Friday. The details in terms of his gun control orders that President Biden is going to do, just to go through the bullet points, it's the creation of a red flag law. And what that means is that he's going to order the Justice Department to create, quote, red flag legislation within 60 days that states can pass to authorize the government to remove firearms from someone they say is a danger, which, I mean, that can mean whatever they want it to mean, right? And then, quote, ghost guns. And so that's basically homemade firearms are legal, but have attracted negative press because they can be more difficult for the government to track. Well, that's lovely, I'm sure. Oh, the government can't track it. All right, well, we got to do something about this. Biden will direct the DOJ to issue a new rule to rein in these firearms within 30 days, but offered no details on the content of the rule. Well, of course he's not going to give details. Why would they? Then stabilizing braces. The Justice Department will designate pistols used with stabilizing braces as short-barreled rifles, which under the National Firearms Act require a federal license to own and are subject to a strict application process and $200 tax. A firearm tracking initiative. The government will begin compiling more data on firearms trafficking, something Biden says hasn't been done in over 2 decades. And then this part is really nefarious. Nominate a gun control advocate to head the ATF. And he's set to nominate, which I'm pretty sure he's already done that. Like I said, this was from Thursday. So he's going to nominate staunch gun control activist David Chipman to lead the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. He's a senior policy advisor with Giffords, a gun control advocacy group named for Gabby Giffords. Chipman has spent considerable effort pushing for greater regulation of firearms and enforcement of gun control. His nomination is certain to win praise from gun control advocates. So what do you think about that rundown? And do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. We were talking before we went on about the White House's transcript of Joe Biden's his remarks on April 8th. Yeah. And it's great because I know a lot of hay has been made about this, but he the transcript says exactly what he says verbatim. And it's funny because it's full of markups and misspeaks. Like he called the ATF the AFT a few times. So yeah, there's strike throughs through it. I'll send you, I'll put the link in the chat here for you. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this is it's like he's calling on the legislature to do all these things. So when I was looking into this, it seemed unclear to me as whether or not he was actually signing executive orders or he was asking or ordering the Congress to do something about these things. Mm-hmm. But just, I mean, on its face, I mean, we'll see about the ghost guns thing. I think that's the most concerning.
Yeah.
The red flag laws are pretty concerning, but the Second Amendment is Swiss cheese as it is. And when I was in practice, when I was doing kind of domestic general practice stuff, I learned that a lot of people don't know this, but there's a federal law that prohibits you from owning firearms if you've been convicted of a domestic violence offense or if you have a temporary restraining order against you. And it's a federal law, but it can be interpreted, the states have the definitions of what they call these domestic violence offenses, or TROs, like temporary restraining orders, or like a injunction. And the big problem with this is that, at least in Wisconsin, when you get accused of domestic violence, it doesn't take a whole lot to get a restraining order slapped against you. The burden of proof is there reason to believe that domestic violence is taking place? So this seems like it's less than probable cause. It's like, is there any reason whatsoever that we can find that domestic violence is taking place? We'll grant the restraining order, and boom, you can't have guns for 2 years. So you have to surrender those guns to the sheriff, or you have to have someone hold your guns for you and register with the court. It's crazy.
Yeah, that sounds ridiculous. And it also just kind of goes to show that it seems like anyone, like you were saying, they could pretty much get a restraining order on you for pretty much anything. I mean, I'm sure there's some legit reasons as to why someone could get a restraining order on someone, like they feel like they're actually in danger. Someone's trying to attack us or our family or whatever, like an ex or something like that. Okay, I get it.
Sure, yeah.
But when it's something like, I don't know, I don't like this person, I'm gonna do this, whatever. And it's like, okay, whatever. Come on, really? Because then all these consequences come out. They can't, like you're saying, they can't own a gun for a certain amount of time or anything like that. I don't know about that law all that well, but it just seems like they can just change the definition of however they want it to mean. Like for example, red flag laws, like they could pretty much make that mean whatever they want. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's like, so this makes me think of, I was going to do an episode this week. I promised my listeners I would. I didn't do it, but John Hasness has this article called The Myth of the Rule of Law. And Kinsella's talked about it. I had Dave on my show, and we kind of mentioned it in an episode we did 2 weeks ago. But basically the thesis is that everyone thinks that the law is this objective, like finite thing. Police officers will be like, oh, it's the law, sorry. But what they don't realize is that the law is subjective. The law just basically, there's no right answer. The right answer is whatever the lawyer can say to convince the judge of what the ruling should be. So you would think that he uses a lot of really great examples. Like, I mean, I can't think of anything super simple offhand. I would encourage everyone to read it, but basically he uses the analogy of two law students are coming to class, and there's a question that's posed in a case that they were assigned by their law professor. And each one has a completely different explanation of why they're right. And the right answer is that they're both right, because you could argue it one way or the other. You could get two completely different rulings, and both rulings are correct according to the law. And so John Hasness says, basically, there's no rule of law. It's all up to interpretation. And that's the reason why we can't have a monopoly justice system, is because there's no right answer. So then we need to have court systems, that are flexible like that. So I got to expound upon that a bit more.
It's interesting. That's pretty interesting. And that link that you showed me, or that you shared with me, about the President Biden remarks. I was looking through it, and there is a part. It says, but no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell crowd. You can't. And then it says tell, but it's crossed out. And then in like brackets, it says yell. So I guess they said, well, he meant to say yell, but because it says tell, but then it's crossed out. It's like, oh my gosh, come on.
You call someone Murph? Like, yeah. So, basically what I mean, though, with the red flag laws is that they can stretch it to say whatever the hell they want it to mean.
Yeah.
There's no, there's no objective answer. There's no black and white.
Yeah, and also talking about David Chipman, because I've seen that guy's name being thrown around, and if you're on Twitter, you see it, especially in our circles, where they're talking about how he, the Waco thing and everything like that. And it's just like, wow, I guess that's the guy that's going to be the leader of the ATF, I suppose. And it's like, okay.
I want to push back on the idea that he is the Waco guy, though, because I've seen that on Twitter. And I don't want to, this isn't an original thought, but I saw that Scott Horton was pushing back on the narrative that that's him.
Right.
Do you know if that's him?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I want evidence that it's him,
Yeah.
It would make sense.
Well, I think anyone that's going to be leading that alphabet division or whatever. I mean, I just like the fact that it's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Like they have a whole bureau just on those three things.
You mean alcohol, firearms, and tobacco?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, correct. If you're talking to Joe Biden, of course. It's just funny because tobacco is basically, I mean, pushing back on tobacco, that's pretty much over, right? I mean, I don't know how many people are still smoking. I'm sure it's still a huge amount, but it's pretty much out there that tobacco is not. So I don't know what's the point of having the tobacco as part of, if you're going to have this ATF, whatever, what's the point of the tobacco? I don't understand. But then like the firearm, I don't know. Why are they even put firearms together with alcohol and tobacco? Like
why wouldn't alcohol and tobacco be part of the DEA?
Yeah, right. If you're going to have these stupid departments, why? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if anything, maybe you should put firearms with the just by itself, because they make it seem like this is the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh, because now recently, of course, with all these COVID restrictions being loosened up and the lockdowns going away and everything like that, of course, now people are getting shot again, and now they're trying. That's why there's all this gun control stuff, and then of course also with the rise in sales and ownership when it comes to like black people and Asians. Now all this gun control stuff's coming out. It's kind of, the timing is really, really strange.
Yeah. And I don't know, it seems really convenient, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I like about, Mosh Ture's message that all gun control is racist, because I don't know who, maybe it was again Scott talking on a podcast just recently about how, it's so clear that the gun control is the impetus behind gun control is always racist.
Yeah.
Or at least, and that's how it was with all of drug prohibition. I mean, you could, and I'm forgetting about exactly what the National Narcotics Act. It was aimed at minority populations, and making marijuana illegal was against Hispanic populations. It's all this targeted stuff. And it's funny how the left doesn't see that. And funny too how, and maybe this is a good segue into our next topic, but funny too how they don't see the potential behind this vaccine passports in creating a two-tiered society. Whether that's, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I know for sure that this would inhibit minorities just because of their nature, like that. The thing that the left assumes that, we can't have like voter ID laws because that means black people wouldn't be able to vote. That's not what I'm saying, but it seems like that, like the ACLU just came out with an article saying that, we're worried that this is going to create a two-tiered society and it's going to be racist.
And do they have anything to back that up? Like, because to me it seems that, and I've seen people make this argument too, or I guess they're kind of making fun of it. It's almost like they're saying, so you're basically saying that these people can't get the IDs themselves, right? Like if you need an ID to vote, so like, what's the problem? I don't, but then they're going, I don't think we should have IDs, because you're basically saying that they can't. They're not smart enough to get the ID themselves. Right. So let's just not have that as a requirement.
I don't know, man. And there's that video, I don't know if it was The Blaze or was some like conservative outlet where a guy was walking around like Detroit, and he walked up to a bunch of people and he was like, yo, do you have a driver's license? And everyone's like, yeah, I have a fucking driver's license. What is this all about? Yeah.
He was just asking them if they had a driver's license, and they answered them they do. So what was he trying to gain there? Oh, see, I told you these people don't have IDs. What was he trying to accomplish?
Well, he was just like, he was going up to a bunch of black folks and he was like, yeah, these people all have IDs. What are you talking about? So I mean, the left would say, oh, it's so hard for black people to get IDs. So he was just going around proving that literally every black person you talked to had an ID. So I don't know. It's just, but when it comes to, I always thought that I had the slam dunk argument against gun control, because it was like, if you ask someone ostensibly, why are you for gun control? They'll always say, or at least they should say, well, I'm against violence. I don't like violence. Then you just be like, okay, well, what if I have a gun, but I'm not hurting anyone and I don't want to give up my guns? What would you have be done to me? It's kind of that against me argument that like Stefan Molyneux had back in the day.
Right.
Then they get in this logical pretzel because it's like, well, I would have violence committed upon you if you didn't want to give up your guns. But I'm sure they would twist that into being like, oh, I'm the violent one, even though I'm sitting here with an inanimate object, not doing anything. So,
because they think that the gun will just walk up and start blasting out.
Right? Yeah.
Can't believe this is happening. This thing that you have to have a pure person pull the trigger, but no, instead it's just going all over the place. Oh, like it's Commando or something.
My brother-in-law sent me a really funny meme that was just it was like it was an AR-15 on a stovetop cooking dinner, and it was like they grow up well if you raise them right.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, in the thing that I hate about the ACLU is in all civil libertarians. I mean, Milton Friedman in Capitalism and Freedom, he made the great point about how you can't have just economic freedom and civil freedom. Like you can't have just your civil liberties and not economic freedom, because without one or the other, it's impossible to exercise the other one. So if you only have civil liberties but no economic liberties, well, how are you going to fund all of your lobby organizations, your activist organizations? Or if you don't have financial freedom, how are you going to get, like, say, I think this was Sheldon Richman's point. No, who does the Soho Forum?
Gene Epstein.
Gene Epstein's point. Sorry, Gene. That about, you can't have like a communist banking system, because if the state owns all the finance, then the state will be able to say, no, we're not going to give financing to people we don't like. And so it's like Milton Friedman made that argument. But that's what I hate about civil libertarians, is because it's like, well, you don't really believe in freedom. You don't hate the police because you think that some people shouldn't have more rights than other people. You hate the police because you think they're racist.
Yeah.
So if they were facially neutral to everyone, you would have no problem with the police, in theory. That's my thought.
Well, I also think it's funny that all these people who, and I know this argument's been done before, but I saw someone, because Joe Biden was tweeting about the gun control thing and saying, we got to do something about these AR-15s and assault rifles and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And someone was like, oh, this is the powerful leadership we need. Thank you so much, President. I really love you, or whatever. And it's like, so how am I, okay, so if these guns are being taken away, because first it starts out with high capacity magazines and all this stuff and assault rifles. Well, then there's, the next step, maybe they'll go the semi-automatic or whatever, and just keep going down until you get to your little tiny pistol, whatever, your little, what's the gun called? A Men in Black, the little tiny gun.
The cricket.
Yeah, the cricket. There you go. The little cricket. Something like that. Even though the cricket was a powerful weapon, but you know what I mean, in terms of the size or whatever.
I don't know how I pulled that out of my ass just now. I haven't seen Men in Black in 10 years.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the next step, blah, 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 and to the point where, well, now you can't get a gun because first you do, you got to do this, and because then they also say, oh well, a lot of women will say this. Well, I just wish guns would be more regulated than my vagina. got you there, man. But I don't know. As far as I know, and let me know if I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not smart. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. But I would think if you go to a store like a Walmart, because sometimes Walmart has stores, right? I'm pretty sure. Maybe someone can test this out. I'm sure it's been done before. Maybe if you go to Walmart and go, yeah, can I get that $400 hunting rifle there? Oh yeah, sure. Here you go. Here you go. They'll hand it to you, and then nothing. You have to sign any paperwork, any of that stuff.
Right.
Because what if you buy it and they go, yeah, I'm a crazy person. Now I'm going to start blasting people away because I don't like it. In this Walmart. Like, do you think that would happen or something? That's what they think. They think they can just go up there and it's like buying like an Instant Pot. You just grab the box and then you go scan it and okay, now I'm on my way.
Yeah. I grew up in a family with a lot of guns. I've always had guns throughout my life. I never bought a gun myself until the lockdown started.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty about it the whole time because it's like, I don't know, the stimulus money came in, but I didn't feel like I had the money. I always feel guilty when I spend money, but yeah, man, it was a hassle. It was a big hassle. I mean, my background check went through in the first like 25 minutes, but but it was a pain in the ass. And it's all about this, especially when you're going to order a gun online, because you have to have it shipped to your firearms dealer, and they take their sweet ass time in calling you to say that it showed up. So yeah, but the cat's out of the bag now. I mean, so many people have bought guns, and I mean, I think it's safe to say that Tim Pool has said this, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
He's said this. What is the best thing that you can do to convince people to be pro-gun? Is to take them shooting.
Yeah.
And I feel like once all these people who have bought guns, the record number of people who have been first-time firearm purchasers, hopefully they went out and they shot that gun. And if they did, I'd say there's a really good chance that they really fucking liked it.
Like, oh man, this feels great.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do anything with this gun. I feel like I can be the next powerful leader if I just go up to Washington, metaphorically, or whatever.
The next powerful leader, yeah.
Yeah, just shoot my way through it. Now this whole video is gonna get demonetized. I'm talking about violence.
Yeah, sorry. I swore a couple times. I don't know if.
Oh no, you can swear. It doesn't matter. Because I mean, we had a video that
was it with Pete Quinones?
No, it was one of our episodes just recently, a couple episodes back. 116 was taken off of YouTube because we were talking about vaccine passports.
Oh boy.
And, I can't remember exactly the reason, but I tweeted about it so people can go through that. Did an appeal, and then they said, "Oh yeah, it's back." And then like a few hours later, they removed it again.
Yeah,
for the same reason. For the same reason. And so I appealed that. Haven't heard anything back. So it's just like, okay, so because I know also. I just learned recently that James Corbett's channel has basically just been off.
Yeah.
And I was starting to watch that video that people were talking about, the Science Says video. And it's like, yeah, because first Fauci was saying, oh, yeah, don't wear a mask. What are you, crazy? What do you think this is, Japan? What are you, stupid? And then like a couple months later or whatever, near after that, he was saying, I don't know, maybe we should. Because it was funny though, because he was like a facial covering. He was like, don't call it a mask. Don't call it a mask. And then it's like, oh, put like a thing over your face, and then put like a cotton or like a cloth mask. So now, because then you see people, I don't know, maybe this is the free market at work. I don't know. But I saw like will.i.am coming out with some stupid a little filter thing, and it has the headphones. You can put it on.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He had something like that. Oh, put on your face. As that like those really strong filters or whatever they're called, and he has little earbuds on. They look like the They look like the Beats headphones, not like the over the ear, but like the ones that just put inside your ear. That's what they look like to me. But you can get 2 in 1. Not only can you have a mask on, but you can also listen to some great tunes while you have your mask on.
just the complete the loss of common sense throughout this whole thing is just incredible. Like, people that I dearly love and care about, they'll do this deal where you walk in a room and then they'll put their mask on, and then they'll take it off and let it hang by their ear. And I don't know if it's like habit now, or it's like, why, or the whole thing about putting a mask on to walk 6 feet to the table and then taking it off right away. It's like, what is?
Yeah. Like, okay, if you're gonna have people wear a mask inside a building, have them wear it the entire time.
Yeah.
If that's gonna be the rule, don't just wear the mask and then when you sit down, you can take it off. But I'm going from this spot right here to this spot. It's like I didn't even go that far. So I don't even know what the hell we're talking about. And then of course, like go on, like you go to the airport, you gotta wear a mask in the airport. But then once you go in the plane, you gotta wear the stay 6 feet apart. But how are you gonna stay 6 feet apart in a plane unless you have someone sitting here and then like in row 10, but the next person's gotta be in like row 2 or something. I don't know. Like come on, if you're gonna have all these rules, be consistent or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's really, and the thing too is I'm starting to rant a little. So
no,
you're a first class seat here, but libertarians, I see libertarians too, and I've talked about this before. Like libertarians are like, oh yeah. I mean, I don't think this is the lockdowns aren't good, but I think you should social distance and wear your mask and and all that stuff. Hey, it's a private company and do what they want, but it's just. A lot of these corporations, they're in bed with the government. They're all like, oh yeah, Amazon and Walmart and all those other places. They're basically, I don't know, who knows how long that's going to last when it comes, because like a small store, little mom and pop store, they're probably done with all this shit. They're like, I don't care. I'm losing money and I need the money to keep afloat. I need to stay even at least. But these corporations, they can afford it. They can afford to lose a few $1 million a year or something like that. That's why you see people losing jobs and all this stuff because, less work or something like that, and people getting laid off because the company's like, I think we're gonna have to try and save some money or whatever, because even though I said they can afford to lose money, but still they're still thinking, oh man, this is kind of crazy what's happening, but we're still gonna try and save money or whatever. And then of course all the CEOs before all this happened sold their stock or
right.
I'm stepping down from my CEO position from whatever. And it was like a domino effect. I don't know who the first one was, but once that first person stepped down as a CEO of a major company, then it's just like, oh, Ford and Target, and I'm just naming companies. I don't know if that's what happened in terms of their CEO, but I'm just saying in general, all these companies just, oh shit, okay, something's happening. Because there was what was this? There was some kind of event or something like that. I wish I remember what it was called, but I've heard it. I've heard it named a few times, but it escapes me. I'm sure I'll remember it once we stop recording or whatever. But
it works.
Yeah, always. But there was like this company like this event, they're talking about this and what happens if like a pandemic, and there's also that one model too where Bill Gates and some people are like, what happened, maybe if this happened, then maybe we could have this happen. Look, I don't know if any of this is true or not, but it really makes you wonder, like, I don't know. 2020 was a really weird year.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get to the point. I don't know where the point is in this whole thing, but I'm trying to get there. It's really interesting that libertarians, and I know there's already going to be factions and all stuff, but I would think all the libertarians, I guess I don't know, I guess you can call them blue pill or whatever, but it's like, I thought we were supposed to hate the government, but then all these people from the government who weren't elected, they were just appointed. They were just Okay, Dr. Fauci, you're the leader. Thanks, Trump. Really appreciate you, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you so much, Donald. It's all your fault, basically. Oh, Operation Warp Speed. Thank you. You're a great president. I love you so much. That's sarcasm, by the way. This whole thing with, oh, I hate the government, but the CDC and the government's basically telling me we should shut down. Okay, all right. I guess we'll listen to what they say because
science. That's why.
I guess that's their overlord now, right? Science. Yeah. Before it was, oh, I'm a free thinker and I'm an individual.
But this is what the experts say, and only the experts can have an opinion on this.
Right. Straighten my tie. And I'm going to look nice. And when I go to my cocktail party with a bunch of Republicans and Democrats in the Capitol or whatever, I'm that one libertarian who's, I'm so happy I got invited to this party. That's all they're caring about. Oh man, am I going to get invited to the next cocktail party? I hope so. I really hope so. That's what other libertarians or anarchists and all those people who are like, no, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I would think that this could be one issue at least. We don't have to grant anything. We don't have to grant everything. I mean, you and I probably don't agree on everything, Patrick, but I don't know. I'm just saying we don't have to grant everything. But I would think at least with this, because, we're all about private property and all about businesses, whatever. But I mean, as far as I know, like I was saying before, businesses were losing money and businesses were dying because of this, because the government was saying, only 25% capacity or something like that. I mean, movie theaters are pretty much fucked.
Yeah, right.
They're fucked.
Well, they don't have any good movies out anyways. Not that they were great beforehand, but
yeah, but even then, despite that fact, like going to a movie theater, that's pretty much like, I don't know when the next time we'll go to a movie theater without all this bullshit happening, because they're still, they're like them, and I guess tourism too. Tourism is another one that's completely been fucked over as well. I mean, who knows how long when we're going to go from. Who knows when we're going to be able to travel to Europe now, because of all the shit we have to do when we get there. Got 14 days and
that makes me sad.
Yeah. And I have family over there and overseas across the pond, but I when am I going to be able to visit them now? I guess I have to get the vaccine.
Well, and you have to hope that they're not brainwashed too. I mean, we have family in Canada and family on the East Coast, and they don't, yeah, I don't know if they're enjoying that. Well, they're probably not enjoying it, but grandma has a granddaughter, their firstborn granddaughter, just born, and we have to quarantine by ourselves for 2 weeks before we can go and see granddaughter. And it's just like, oh, well, that's the way it is. We're all doing our part. We gotta go quarantine, sit by ourselves in a fucking apartment building for 2 weeks, and meanwhile, like, grandma is what, 90 years old, older than 90s, and she's like depressed and doesn't, I can't imagine that. Could you imagine your twilight years being spent in isolation? I mean, fuck, I just off myself, honestly. I hope that's, all due respect to grandma, but
yeah.
So you said something I wanted to touch on, because these blue-pilled libertarians that are just basically carrying water for the COVID regime. It's akin to being like, okay, now I'm anti-war and we should not overthrow Saddam Hussein, but he's a mass murdering son of a bitch and he needs to go. Like he is evil. He's an evil dictator. He's the evilest thing ever on earth. You're carrying water for it, even if on principle, you say, I don't care how it happens, but Assad must go. I don't want the U.S. military to invade, but I won't even say I don't want the U.S. military to invade, but I'll just talk about how Assad gassed his own people. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I know there's people out there that are trying to do liberty, unity, and everything like that, and I applaud them and I support that. I just think that I'm sure they already realize this, so I'm probably just knocking it over the head or whatever. But I'm sure they realize that there's people that they're just not gonna be able to reach out to them. Like I'm sure they'll try and work with them, but I just think there's people that they just don't want to be a part of it. They're comfortable in where they are. They're comfortable in basically talking bad about other people. And I think it's funny too, also, when you see people say, oh, I don't like this person, so I'm just gonna ignore them, and I'm not going to acknowledge him. But then you continuously talk about them over and over again. And it's like, so what are we doing here? Like, what is this? Like, are we seriously gonna, are we seriously trying to, because I don't even know how you can even say that. I don't even know, like, who would be the best people to go after? I mean, because before you could say it was conservatives would be good to try and align with, but now with all the Derek Chauvin trial, they're pretty much gone with that too. They're like, oh no, I think Derek Chauvin should be 100%. He should walk away. Oh, actually, he was on his shoulder. Oh, well, I mean, I guess that makes a difference. I suppose if so much pressure was on my shoulder, I guess, and I'm on the concrete, not able to breathe or whatever, I guess that's fine. But then also they say, well, he didn't die from, well, first, let me just make a comparison. George Floyd died of fentanyl. Oh, okay, well, great. Well, he had fentanyl in his body. So I guess if he got his head chopped off, he said, well, I mean, he had fentanyl in his body, so that's why he died, because he had drugs in his system.
Or he had COVID, so that he died from COVID.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, he had well, I mean, he had, brain cancer and stuff like that.
I think the problem, I mean, a lot of people have said this, but the problem with blue-pilled libertarians is that they desperately want to be accepted by people that will hate them no matter what. So instead of turning around and standing for something, they just pander.
Yeah, and a prime example of someone pandering to someone who, like you said, they'll think, I mean, John Brennan called libertarians, he pretty much grouped libertarians with domestic terrorists, insurrectionists, whatever. I mean, shit. Yeah, we're insurrectionists. Okay, well, embrace that label and say, yeah, because we don't like you. We don't like you. Like, where the country was at first to where it is now, we don't like you. We don't like you, John Brennan. We hope you just go away, like go somewhere else. Go get him in a helicopter and throw him off. That's what we want to happen to him. Just get out of here. We don't care. You're the CIA guy. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was John Brennan. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure you can probably correct.
No, that was John Brennan. Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, get the fuck out. Yes, we are insurrectionists. Now what? Now what? Like now what? That's what libertarians should have said when they said, okay, well, now what? Now what are you gonna say? Yes, we are. Now what? Because you see libertarians like, we're not all like that. No, we're actually pretty cool, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, fuck off.
Yeah. It's like we're fucking radicals. I mean,
supposed to be. That's why those people are trying to, and I know not everybody agrees with this methodology, whatever, but I'm just trying to go in terms of what the people who are doing this. So with the Libertarian Party, whatever, they're trying to take it over because they are trying to make the Libertarian Party radical. They're not just trying to be a third option. Right. They're not trying to make it a third option. They're going to be like, we're not the Republicans and Democrats. We're not socially conservative and socially liberal and fiscally conservative. Mm-hmm. That's not who. I mean, maybe there are those. I don't know, but
they work at Reason Magazine.
I mean, yeah, sure, yeah, Reason Magazine. Which, look, some of the things that Reason does, I love. Like, I love the videos.
Yeah.
I love the video. Every time I see one of those like libertarian dad jokes type videos, whatever from them, I'll retweet that immediately. It's hilarious. I love that shit. Like the one they released recently about the PBS. That was great.
Yeah,
that was a great video.
Yeah, I'm an individualist. I have to make that caveat is that some people at Reason Magazine sometimes.
Yeah, but you know what? To be fair, I'm sure there's people when they see, like Scott Horton will interview people from Cato and Reason. It's like, okay, great, because we're talking about one issue and everything. Yeah. And then same with the Mises Institute. He'll interview people with Mises because Scott is he's like the only person that I can think of that is really, because he'll talk to communists, he'll talk to progressives, he'll talk to anybody who is anti-war and anti-state, even if it's just one issue. Okay, I don't like the state on this one issue. All right, great, let's talk about it. Because then afterwards, maybe we can have a conversation about some other stuff. Well, why did you didn't like to say about this thing, but what about this? Like, you like to stay for this, so how come you don't see the connection there? Like, why don't you like the state or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what I was saying there, but
I'm a coalitionist too, so yeah, I should walk back what I said about Reason May. I'm not a bomb thrower, I've never been someone, at least I don't think, to pick fights with anyone. So it's like, I'll criticize, but it's like, I generally think that it's like Ron Paul, people would always ask Ron Paul, like, what should I do? What should I do? And he's like, I don't know. What do you like to do?
Yeah.
And so by that, like, what do they call that? Division of labor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, we need everybody. We need people on certain sides. We need people to speak to certain people. But at the same time, I don't know, when it seems that the blue-pilled libertarians have just as much animus towards us as we do towards them, if not more. So,
well, because anytime you'll talk to them, they'll just call you a racist. It's like who am I talking to? Am I talking to a libertarian, or am I talking to some like woke progressive or something like that? Who am I talking to?
Yeah,
I thought we were supposed to be on the same team, but apparently not. I was okay. So what I was saying before about trying to pander to people that hate us no matter what. Like when Nick Sarwark tried to talk to Talib Kweli, and Talib was like, "No, you're with this guy. You're a racist. Fuck you." And
right.
Said, no, I don't. No, I'm not. No, you're like them. Go away.
Yeah.
And it basically blew up in his face, and then it's like, okay, well then, so. But obviously, it went over his head, and he's still, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the guy, so I don't know.
It's like we're the inbred bastard stepchild, and Nick Sarwark wants to put us in the closet, and never, when guests are over, there's a noise coming from the closet, and he's like, that's nothing. Just don't pay attention. Yeah. And, but everyone hates him anyways. It's like, oh, well, you have that one policy that goes against the cathedral. You're out.
You calling it the cathedral they don't like. Oh, yeah. You're calling it the cathedral. It must be some alt-right talk. Okay, so what do you want me to call it then? What should I call it?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna try to have a conversation with you, then what should I call the cathedral? What should I call it? Just
do they object to the concept of the cathedral, or do they object to the term?
I mean, it could be both. I don't know. Like it's probably I just remember that one tweet where someone was saying, "Oh, the cathedral." It's like, okay.
Moldbug came up with that.
I mean, that's probably why. Because the Moldbug, I don't like. Okay. Because they'll always go, well, this person aligned with this person, so you had this guy on your podcast, whatever. It's just okay. So what am I supposed to do when I have someone on a podcast? Am I supposed to just yell at them the entire time? Because that's really going to go great,
right? Yeah.
I mean, maybe you should make a podcast, Mister, and get him on your show, and then you can argue with him all day about that. Right. That's what you want. Because you're all about, just make your own private, make your own social network or whatever. But okay, well then you make your own podcast and then you do it. But you don't have that. So all you have is Twitter and your whatever, and that's it. So
how many people do you think would listen? Does Nick Sarwark have a podcast?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he does, as far as I know.
Libertarians have a podcast, and I wonder how many downloads they get.
I don't know. I mean, I will say this about the Faketarians, since you brought it up. They did this one, I think it was after Dave's debate with Andy Craig. And because I think Andy Craig was actually going to be on the episode that he was going to do like a recap of the debate or whatever on Lions of Liberty. And they did this they did this like they took some audio, or they basically took part of the problem's intro and they inserted their own stuff into it. And I'm not gonna lie, it made me laugh. I'm not gonna lie.
Was it good?
It was okay. It was funny. I'm not gonna lie. You know, now I'm sure some people who are like, oh, the Mises libertarians or Mises caucus are gonna hate me forever because I praised the fakeritarians one time. So, but I'm just saying, it was funny.
You know, I mean, I will say though that like some of that might just be, you know, how there's like layers of libertarianism. Like you and I have been in this scene for, I don't know. I've been throwing this around lately. I've been like, yeah, listeners, I've been around the block for like 3 years.
I'm an old man. I've been here
an
a while.
old fucking man. But I mean, it really is. It takes like years to really know your way around the movement and be on the inside kind of stuff. Yeah. And honestly, for libertarians who are like only maybe 6 months or a year deep in this, they don't know who the fakeritarians are and how they're different. They just see black and yellow and they're like, oh, I'm gonna like that on Facebook, you know, or subscribe on Twitter.
Well, I mean, some people they got to where they're at now, like anarchists, for example. They first started watching Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder. That was like their first step. Oh shit, I never hear about this. Okay, cool. I'm a conservative. And then after that, they went, oh, there's I don't know, like maybe the next step would be Dave Smith and Tom Woods. Oh shit, I never heard about these guys. Awesome. Now, or I guess Ron Paul would be the next example, and then Tom Woods and Dave Smith.
Yep.
And then maybe after that they start listening to Free Man Beyond the Wall or Timeline Earth or something like this, right. Like, you know, out there type of shit, which is great. But it's just, yeah, like you said, it's just these different layers, and the layer the layer they're at is, it's not even on the tower. Because I mean, where are they?
So they have 1,000 Twitter followers. I mean, their Facebook page has 8,000 likes. I mean, I'm no giant in this scene, but I don't know.
It's like with anyone. I'm sure there's people that follow big day libertarians who are just following them because they hate them. I'm sure there's plenty of those that are.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
So I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of them. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of it's genuine. I'm sure a lot of it's probably not. I don't know. I don't know how that whole metric is, because I think kind of like lining up that metric is like, well, I got 200,000 Twitter followers. Okay, well, I mean, how many of that is genuine? Because you can look at the engagements and you can go with that. How many impressions? So who knows? You know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you could. There's several different metrics. You're right, but I mean, like, if you're measuring how much, it's hard to measure how much you actually influence people. But I'd say a decent metric is followers.
Yeah.
Like even if people hate you, they're listening to what you have to say, or you're important enough to give them a sub.
Right. Like if the whole point of your thing is to call out, I would say the majority of the time, what Dave Smith and Tom Woods says, then I think maybe there's some kind of, you say you hate them, or you're, oh no, we're here because we want to get them straightened out. We want to make sure that they agree with what we say. Because I'm sure, you know, I know Tom's also joked like, well, I'll monetize my haters. I think Eric July says that too. I'll monetize my haters because, you know, they all have them because they have huge follow. It's funny too, because whenever, you know, I remember when I started listening to Dave, I didn't know about any of this, all these haters and all the things they had until like recently, this past, I would say, year or so. Like, I think the first time that it really kind of sparked was, like with the whole
Jeff Dice speech.
The what?
For me, it was Jeff Dice speech.
Oh yeah. That was kind of like a little crack in the little, you know, that little stone or whatever. And then I don't know exactly the timeline of it, but like having like Richard Spencer on your show, or I guess like Nick Fuentes now is the big one. Oh my God, I can't believe you have Nick Fuentes on. Shit, I'll have Nick Fuentes on the show. If he wants to come on, we'll talk. I don't give a shit. Let's have him on.
Yeah.
Because as much as they don't want to admit, they'd probably, if they actually heard what he said, I'm sure they would agree on some of the things he says. You know, I'm not saying that you should agree with him 100%. I'm not saying that you should agree with Dave Smith 100%. But it's almost like, why? Okay, so why is there vitriol towards this one guy when I don't know, maybe they should be like, oh shit, this guy said this, but it's just you obviously have some kind of connection with him or something. Like, why are you're so adamant on Dave and Tom? I don't understand it.
It's an acknowledgement that they're so influential. Like you were saying earlier, they're like, oh, well, we gotta spend all this effort to make them set straight and make sure they get everything right. It's like, well, why would you care about that? If they had 5 followers on Twitter, you wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
The reason why you care so much is because they get hundreds of thousands of downloads a month. Millions.
They can tweet something like and get thousands of likes and retweets. Oh man, I can't believe they said terrible. I hate this person. I mean, it would be kind of fun to just be like, I'm just gonna tweet the letter A and see what happens, because you have that many followers. Like you have like 5 million followers. You could, like, Ariana Grande could literally tweet out B and then boom, she gets like 100,000 likes. Like, man, that's crazy.
or I mean, but when the biggest people that I've heard of from the loser squad or the loser brigade, when, I don't know, Andy Craig has 2,666 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Fakertarians has a little over 1,000. And what, Nick Sarwark, doesn't he have, Sarwark.
As of right now, I think it's like 15,000 or something like that.
Oh, maybe he's blocked me.
Uh-oh.
What's his handle?
I think it's N Sarwark.
Sarwark.
It's funny. I wasn't even expecting that we were talking about this, but here we are talking about for 20.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. No, it's cool, man.
He has 14,000. So, I
have
so
close, yeah.
Yeah. But he was the chairman of a national libertarian party.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard that he wasn't always like that. I guess apparently
I heard that too.
Yeah, like he was great. For as far as I know, obviously I'm not in the know, so I don't know. I'm just kind of outside looking in, obviously. But from what I know, like when he first won the chair, and then like the first 2 terms, he was fine. I didn't hear anything about him. It was just this the third term. It was just like, screw, I'm going to throw everything out the window. Fuck you. Oh, you need to sign this paper to say if you're a fascist or whatever the hell it was. Some piece of paper, and Tom didn't decline to sign it. And he's, you must be a racist or whatever it was.
Well, maybe this is correlated exactly with Tom Wood's podcast taking off. Because all of a sudden it was like, oh, these Mises types, the Lou Rockwell libertarians.
Yeah.
Are all of a sudden exploding right now, and I don't know if the Lou Rockwell and because I don't think, do you remember the Mises Institute blowing up while Ron Paul was, big? Because I think when that happened, it was all like Young Americans for Liberty and it was Ron Paul, but it took a while for people to get a bit deeper and be like, oh, the Mises Institute, and then Tom Wood's show, and then boom.
Yeah, because I didn't really. The Mises Institute was something that I kind of learned probably way after the fact. I didn't really know about them until, because I still remember listening to Part of the Problem that first time, the first few times, and just being like, I did not know about any of this, and I was basically, it was like a mind fuck. I couldn't believe it because before. Because my dad would listen to talk radio and Sean Hain and Rush, and that's kind of where I was at in terms of just listening to that stuff and kind of being like, oh, that's interesting, because it was just, that was what was there, it was radio. But yeah, once I heard that and Michael Malice too, and his appearances on Part of the Problem way back when, that was just like, holy shit, I didn't know about any of this, and it really kind of got me interested in a lot of stuff. So I always credit Dave for that in terms of how my political, I guess, journey, I suppose you want to say, kind of went from like being like this. And then once I heard him went, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. It just completely spiraled out. I was like, damn, this is great.
It is a mind fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I will tell you what, Shane, like, I enjoy this so much. I enjoy being a part of this space so much. It is like, I don't know. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun to be a part of, and like to get to know people like you and all the people I've had on my show and that I've gotten to know and meet, and like the fact that celebritarians in this sphere are a lot more accessible than you would think.
Yeah.
it's special. It feels special. It feels like a special time, and just to be a part of something like this is just, it's better than video games. I said this in a tweet today. It was like, honestly, like, this is way more fun, and I love video games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is that how you feel about this? It's like, it's so fun to do these shows and to be in this space.
Yeah, especially, you know, when we're having like you on, for example, is having guests on talking about whatever topics we're going to talk about. But then when we get into like the inside baseball of libertarianism and everything like that, it's just like, because when we were talking before we started, okay, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this. But then I don't know, it always happens. It always goes to this type of stuff because someone like for example, the guest will say something and it'll spark, oh shit, well, let me mention this, and then it'll spiral out over. And yeah, it's just like, I'm someone that, and I've mentioned this before on the show, but I'm someone that I'd rather have this space to talk because I can actually say it than me putting into some like 280 characters or whatever, you know. So I'm not one to tweet all that much when it comes to. I'll definitely be observing. I'll definitely be someone observing. Oh, what the fuck did this guy say? Okay, what are they saying about this person? You know, I'll be you know, scourging around. But when it comes to this platform that we have, this tiny platform that we have right now, just being able to talk like this, yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun because I feel like I can come out of my shell and start spouting out and start ranting, and you know, and Nico will start laughing because she's like, oh, he's going on one of his rants again, you know. So.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy too because, you know, Dave said something about this on a show this week. He was like, you know, when you go on Rogan, it's kind of crazy because you kind of forget that, oh, I'm talking like 10 million people will hear this conversation.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm just going to a basement somewhere and sitting at a table with Joe Rogan and shooting the shit.
Right.
It's like the same thing. I mean, like doing this, it's the same for you. It's like you sit down in front of a small rectangular plastic thing, you put something in your face, and you just like, I don't know, you do the rant that you would have done to your family, rolling their eyes and trying to ignore you.
Yeah, because then when I have someone like you're like, yeah, exactly, yeah, woo-woo.
Yeah,
you know. But it's not like it's weird too because at the same time you don't want to be in an echo chamber, but at the same time it is nice to have someone kind of support what you're saying or maybe add on to it and kind of have like an aside or something like that. But yeah, it's great to just be able to talk and have this type of platform. And I think, you know, I would, because I know you're talking about that tweet you're talking about, because I know I don't know if he wants to, I mean, I guess he tweeted about it, so I'll just kind of mention it. But I know like Alan Mosley was saying, well, I don't know, I'm kind of questioning whether I should continue. Look, we have, as of right now, the last I checked, it was like we have just over 2,000 subscribers, and we've been on YouTube or doing this since 2018. I'm pretty sure it's 2018, but you know, when we started, especially with just our discussions, whatever, the first person that we talked to was Scott Horton. And we didn't have the best. I mean, we still don't have the best equipment, but it's great for you know what we do, whatever. But before, it was just, we literally were just using our computer. Because I remember someone commented. It's a comment that I'll never forget. Which is funny that I say that because I don't exactly remember the quote, but I do remember seeing it.
Yeah.
And it was when we had Dave Smith on way back when. With having a discussion with him, which still sucks to this day because some of that audio and the video just for some reason is just gone. I don't know what happened.
Oh, Dark Tom Woods.
Yeah, it was probably, yeah, you're probably right. It was probably Dark Tom Woods. But anyway, they were like, how are these people? How do they get Dave Smith on their show when they have such potato quality? You know, and it always stuck with me. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just asked him. I was like, hey, you know, we want to have a discussion, talk about whatever, talk about libertarian. I don't know exactly remember what I said, but he's like, yeah, sure, yeah, let's do it. Let's set it up and everything. And that's basically how it happened. And I think that's something that, you know, it's definitely easy to be discouraged when you're not when you feel like you're not getting enough, I guess, exposure, or you feel like you're not getting a lot of feedback, I guess it's really easy to be discouraged and to feel that I don't know if this is worth it, but anyone can, because we'll still get comments like, oh, that was a really great podcast episode you guys did. You guys are, because we just got a comment just recently. They're like, oh, that was a great episode. You guys are criminally under subscribed. You should be more subscribed, whatever. You'll get comments like that. And it's like, wow, that's great. Someone came on to watch one of our episodes and took an hour or so of their day to watch us talk about whatever, about the topics of the week or whatever. And it's definitely, I'll say it again. It's definitely easy to be discouraged, but I think it's also, you have to understand that there's always going to be someone they'll stumble onto your video or a podcast, whatever. And they're like, I never even thought about it like that. When, whatever he said, like from my experience, listening to Dave Smith, I was like, I never knew about any of this stuff. I didn't know that you could just not have a state. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, really? Because, obviously when we're in school, we go, oh, well, you have to have a Congress and Republicans and Democrats. And that's how it is, a duopoly and blah, 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 blah. And then when you hear, part of the problem, or if someone can listen to Tom Woods or Liberty Weekly, they'll stumble onto whoever and they're like, wow, that's and I'm not saying they're going to 100% agree and be like, oh, well, now I'm an anarchist because I listened to one episode of someone's podcast, but it'll put it'll light a little candle, just a little candle in that room, be like, huh, it's interesting. I never thought about that. And then they'll go on and watch another one of your episodes, and maybe they'll find some other podcasts to listen to. And it's just a rabbit hole from there, because it's like we were saying before, someone will listen to Ben Shapiro first and they'll, maybe, like they were listening to Ben Shapiro 3 years ago and to say, oh, Ben Shapiro was making some really great points. I never even thought about anything he was saying. I haven't thought about that. And then 3 years later, they're listening to Biting the Bullet, but they'll still listen to Ben Shapiro too, because I still appreciated where I came from, and now this is where I'm at, because I feel like I have the right answers in this area, but I'll still appreciate what happened before. So I think maybe I'm kind of speaking to Alan, I guess, but also to anyone else who's listening. I think it's obviously having fun is the most important part. Like you were saying, it's more fun than video games. It's more fun than, my favorite television show. It's more fun than going out to watch a movie. I just said movie theaters are fucked, but you know what I mean? Like going out to watch a movie or something like that, or going out to eat dinner at a restaurant. Like doing this is great. So I would just say to close that long, I guess, motivational speech is to just to have fun and try to find things to have fun with, because he was going down a long list of people he had on the show. He has some really good people on there, some heavy hitters. I mean, he had Tom Woods on, what was it, episode 100? That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you Ron Paul, that's great. You can, it's not just, okay, well, now I have Ron Paul, now I guess I'm done now. I can't go anywhere from there. You can still get people to come on your show, and I don't know, that's basically.
Well, yeah, and I feel for him too, like one thing to keep in mind. Okay, as an aside, everyone go follow Alan Mosley, AlanMosley. His handle's Alan Mosley TV on Twitter. I've seen Alan. He did a show with Sherry Voluntary and Mike Meharry, and his show has great production quality. Like, he actually does it in a real studio. So I would probably be discouraged too, in a way I am a little bit, because, like me, or, I've been at this for 3 or 4 years now, and I have 877 YouTube subs. My podcast numbers are better than that. And right. I have my library channel has been growing a lot, but, I don't know, man. It's just like, again, I do it because it's more fun to me than I'd probably do it even if I got 100 subs. I wouldn't like it as much, but I only had 100. But it's like, I always put it this way. Think about the people that you have deep, meaningful conversations with in your personal life. Are they like 3 or 4 people that you have regular, deep conversations with where they'll sit and listen to you for 40, 30, 45 minutes and talk with you and engage with you on this stuff? Well, think about if you have a podcast that gets 20 downloads per episode. You've multiplied the number of people that will sit and listen to your stuff by what? 5? By 4 or 5?
Yeah.
And that's with 20 downloads per episode. I mean, this is exponential.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not exponential, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you're talking about it that way. It's like people will say, oh, there's too many libertarian podcasts. Well, bullshit.
Well, I mean, you can say that with any type of political. I mean, there's a lot of conservative podcasts and progressive. So I mean, I obviously, because we're more in the libertarian circles, we kind of see that more than the other one.
And there's less of us,
right?
So we're fighting for a smaller market,
right?
But I don't know. Like at this point in time, Murray Rothbard was sitting in a room with 5 other people who were ANCAPs. Like now there's what, 300 or 400, 500 libertarian podcasts of radical anarchist libertarians.
Yeah.
This is a golden age. Yeah. So it's a good problem to have, but I feel where Alan's coming from, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess to go into more depressing matters, we can continue on with our independent media and talk about one of the major topics that we're actually going to get into.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm glad we had this discussion. It's great. So you had written an article that's over at the Libertarian Institute, over at libertarianinstitute.org. I'll just have I'll share the article so people can see what it is. And we've talked about this before. I had Dave DeCamp on the show recently to talk about this as well. But your article is called Independent Media Parrots Questionable Uyghur Genocide Claims. And so, we had mentioned Tim Pool before, and this article is kind of going about some of the guests that he's had on and some of the topics that he's talked about and relating to the Uyghur situation. So you want to kind of go over that?
Yeah, for sure, man. Before I get into it, Dave DeCamp is really good on this issue.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you had him on to chat. So the Uyghur Muslims, they're a Turkic Muslim minority living in the Xinjiang province of Western China. And the Xinjiang province has been widely considered to be the frontier of China. And so in the past few decades, the Han Chinese, another, ethnic majority, I would say, was moving into the Xinjiang province. And it's been causing, some tensions there. There's been terrorism in that area, and the Chinese have generally been trying to put their arm around the Uyghurs and make them more a part of proper Chinese culture. Honestly, they'd like the Uyghurs to be more urbanized and to work in the factories. So, I've always watched a lot of Tim Pool, and I knew nothing about this topic a month ago. And I just noticed he talked a lot about China all of a sudden, and he would have 2 or 3 segments a week, and he would have guests on that would talk about China. And some of the claims that they were making just sounded too out there for me, and it really piqued my interest. I made comparisons to World War I. There were crazy war atrocity propagandas going on during World War I, like this idea that the Germans were boiling the fat of their dead to make glycerin for bombs, that they were like bundling them up in huge like bundles with barbed wire and putting them in pots and boiling them down to their fat, and that they were like cutting the hands off babies as they marched through like Belgium. And so it sounded to me like that, like this huge over the top. So Tim Pool had guests on, and Tim was saying that the Chinese are basically committing genocide against the Uyghurs, that they're locking them up in the millions in these concentration camps. And oh, look, we have drone footage of this where we see, people in blue uniforms lined up, on their knees in these internment camps. And there's these people that are coming out with stories saying that they've eyewitnessed rape and torture and organ harvesting and just the systematic abuse. And so I thought, maybe I'd get to the bottom of this. And so I did a bunch of research on it and wrote this piece, which is my first major piece for the Libertarian Institute. One of the, there's so many facets to this. It's a very deceptively complicated thing, because for all the people in the mainstream media and the independent media who have been talking about this and saying China's definitely committing genocide, they make this topic seem really straightforward. Like, oh, well, we have these eyewitnesses saying this. There's pictures of internment camps, genocide. It's a lot more complicated than that. And to make a really long story short, basically, there are work camps in Xinjiang province. We don't know how many Uyghurs are there. Their genocide is not taking place. The numbers don't match up with that. The eyewitnesses who say that genocide is taking place constantly change their stories and actually have deep connections to U.S. intelligence, like the U.S. State Department. And some, a lot of these foundations are directly funded by the State Department, like Radio Free Asia, the World Uyghur Congress, and the Uyghur Human Rights Project. Historically, the Uyghur Muslims have been trained through proxies, but proxies that were, directed by the CIA and the State Department to train Uyghurs for terrorist activity. So Scott Horton had an interview with Eric Margulies, who said that he witnessed Uyghurs being trained by Osama bin Ladenites in Afghanistan in 2001. And after that, it's widely known that Uyghur Muslims traveled to Syria to take part in the Syrian civil war, fighting on the same side as al-Qaeda terrorists and the CIA, and that they were at least aided and maybe trained by Turkey, a NATO ally. And so there's a history there of the Uyghur population being used for covert as covert proxies. And Colonel Larry Wilkerson just said in a speech, in 2018, he said in a speech, but then again, he confirmed to Scott Horton just last week, saying that there's rumors in the international community and in the Chinese community that those same Uyghur terrorists who fought on the side of al-Qaeda in Syria are headed back to Xinjiang province right now. Some of them have come home. Some of them are in the process of coming home. And it's rumored that Turkey and the United States are aiding them in their journey back to Xinjiang. And, in that 2018 speech, Larry Wilkerson was saying that this is not the strategy he would advocate in Afghanistan. And he was saying that the strategy we have in Afghanistan does not make any sense. But he said if he would identify three major prongs that would be the reason why we're in Afghanistan. Not that he would advocate it, but the first one would be to have, military forces in a very inaccessible area of the world, and one to be in the middle of this Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, which is a land-based trade corridor that they're trying to establish from Xinjiang province all the way to Lisbon, Portugal. And it's a huge major thing, but Afghanistan is very close to this corridor. So to have military forces there would be really important. The second prong would be to be really close to Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, which that arsenal is considered to be one of the most unstable nuclear arsenals in the world that could go rogue. Especially, I think is it Pakistan and India are the ones that are really mad at each other. Maybe it's India and China, but so and the third prong would be to have military forces very close to Xinjiang. And the reason for that is because all these Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, there's about 12 or 13 million of them, don't like the Han Chinese and see them as kind of not invaders or colonizers, but they're they're not native to the area and they're kind of taking over the culture. So to have the military forces that would give cover to a CIA covert operation to destabilize the Xinjiang region, if a hot war was to break out with China, the CIA would try to influence the Uyghurs to commit, terrorist acts or to stoke ethnic tension and to destabilize the entire region. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. So I'm sorry for going off on it, but
yeah. So one of the parts in your article, and there's a couple other parts too that I found really interesting. One that I mentioned before we started. So over at the Gray Zone, Gareth Porter and Max Blumenthal, they did their own investigation on this. And so there's this guy that I guess he's kind of the forefront of some of this information that people are basically spouting out. And it's this guy named Adrian Zenz. And so I guess he's considered a German Christian fundamentalist researcher. And I guess he says that he's led by God to accuse the Chinese government. So I guess whatever. So yeah, Gareth Porter and Max Blumenthal basically kind of said that what he's saying is nefarious and not anything to really take seriously. Basically, they in your article, you quote them as saying that they conclude, quote, a careful review of Zenz's research shows that his assertion of genocide is contradicted by flagrant data abuse, fraudulent claims, cherry picking of source material, and propagandistic misrepresentations. And his allegations are easily explained by a shift in China's one-child policy and improved access to voluntary birth control and family planning. And now, so this part was pretty interesting as well, the paragraph after. Aside from Zenz's statistical misrepresentations, the bare facts, and you link bare facts in the article so people can check that out, do not support the genocide narrative. The Uyghur population in Xinjiang has grown from 4.67 million in 1953 to 11.3 million in 2018, which, I don't know, as far as I know, I think a genocide means that number would be decreasing, not increasing. I mean, I don't know how words work. I think it's the definition of a genocide, right? So yeah, that was pretty interesting to see that apparently the numbers are actually growing there. And one of the things too that I think you had mentioned was that you're saying like the Hans and the Uyghurs don't really like each other. So it seemed like it's not like a genocide in terms of they're just, like the Holocaust, for example. I know that Holocaust has been thrown out, especially recently in libertarian circles. But it's mainly more of like a cultural thing. Like they're trying to basically assimilate them, kind of like how when people come to America from whatever countries, I guess, for example, China, and they become more Americanized. Like, oh yeah, now I used to do this in China, but now I'm more like this because I've lived in America for so long. Now I'm more American. That's pretty much how it is, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a little, to be fair, I think it's a little more nefarious than that.
Okay.
I think it is that it's not clear how voluntary these camps are. There is some evidence that there are people there voluntarily and that they're earning money to send back to their families. But there's also evidence that people have been convicted and sentenced to be in these camps. So it's hard to find a direct, accurate comparison. I would compare it to, from what I've read, and I'm not an expert on this, so I have to give that disclaimer, but from what I've read, it seems like more akin to what the United States government did to Native Americans. Maybe not quite as extreme, and I know there's some genocide elements to that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when the U.S. government would abduct Native American children and take them to boarding schools and cut their hair off and try to teach them how to be civilized Americans. So maybe that's a more fair comparison. So, it's not this, what the Chinese government is doing is not it's not a bastion of classical liberalism or anything like that. Yeah. But Kyle Anzalone, I was just talking to him about it, and he made a good comparison that it's a lot like what we're doing to our prison population.
Yeah.
So we should fix our own stuff, before we're worrying about what the Chinese are doing.
Well, it's like whenever countries will compare human rights violations, like, see, that country over there is committing human rights violations, and then like right behind them, literally, like like you're saying, all these people in prison are getting whacked or something like that for no reason. Or but your people are getting starved to death or something.
Well, I mean, it is literally a joke in the United States when someone gets sent to prison. They say, "Don't drop the soap."
Yeah.
So I mean, when mainstream media outlets are accusing the Chinese government of mass rape in these work camps, it's like, well, let's look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And moreover, I mean, these allegations are, I'm sure there's some rape happening in the camps. There's rape happening everywhere. But the systematic rape that they're talking about, the institutionalized rape, there's just the eyewitness testimony is not credible. And moreover, eyewitness testimony is the least reliable form of evidence. Like, this is something they teach you in law school. What is it? The Innocence Project. I did a class on wrongful convictions, and the Innocence Project talks about how, like, I don't know, 70 or 80% of wrongful convictions are because the witness misidentifies who the perpetrator is. And the jury just takes that as fact, because if someone gets in front of the jury and is like, defendant, he's the one who raped me, I saw him, he came in and did it, that's powerful.
Yeah.
But it's not reliable. So it's funny how human memory works.
Yeah, it's like when you ask a couple people, like, what shirt was that person wearing, and each person will say, well, he was wearing a red shirt, and the other person goes, no, he was wearing a dark blue shirt, and it's like, right. How do I know what they were wearing? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the other part of this is that Tim Pool had these Falun Gong spiritualist members on his show twice for the Timcast IRL show. And, historically, these allegations of organ harvesting all come from one place. And it's this spiritualist group that originates in China. It was started in I believe 1991 by Li Hongzhu. And it's I don't want to call it New Age, but it's like a Buddhist Taoist mix of these spiritualist people who do these meditation techniques, and it's supposed to heal you. So they ran afoul of the Chinese government in the 90s. They all fled to the United States. They were persecuted in China. And a lot of these allegations of organ harvesting and disappearing people started then. But they came to the United States and they started the Epoch Times. And they started NTD, New Tang Dynasty, which is a broadcasting corporation. So, you've seen the Epoch Times get famous during the Donald Trump, 2020 election. There was a big expose by NBC or ABC, one of the two, about the Epoch Times and about how they're connected to this Falun Gong. I don't want to call them a cult, but they have, a leader. They have a compound in New York, and they believe some crazy whacked out things of what this guy Hung Zui says, that he can walk through walls and that aliens have invaded the human mind. And that he can direct things to happen with his mind. And so he gave a speech to the Epoch Times and NTD in 2009, ordering them to infiltrate the media, become regular media, and expose the evil of the Chinese government. And so these China Uncensored folks that Tim Pool had on his show, who were spouting all of this hawkish Chinese rhetoric, and all, stating all these things as if they're fact. These are all practitioners of Falun Gong. And I think I make a very compelling case in my article that that's true. So.
Yeah. So another part in this article that, like I was saying to you before, but it still gets me. I couldn't even believe that this was actually like true. So in the article, it reads, as the Gray Zone reports, the support for the U.S. State Department's claim that there are 800,000 to 2 million Uyghurs detained in concentration camps stems from two sources. One of those sources is, you guessed it, Adrian Zenz. The other source is the, quote, network of Chinese human rights defenders, unquote, a Washington-supported policy institute. NCHRD's 2018 report reached its conclusions after interviewing a total of 8 individuals. And I was like, 8? That's it? Because people will complain about, oh, that was a poll of only 1,000 people. That's not that much. But 8 people. After 8 people, well, I guess that's it. I guess we gotta, guilty as charged. And so, okay, so we're talking about Tim Pool having these people on to basically, and multiple times, and kind of just spouting out all this stuff about the Uyghurs and the CCP in general. I think if he wanted to have someone, and this is all up to him because, I mean, obviously it's his show, but I think if people, I don't know what the right way to do it, but I think if there was really a need, and I think if he really wanted to showcase that he's someone that can be, oh, this can, maybe we'll have another side to the story. Maybe he should get Peter Lee on his show because he's an independent reporter. I mean, he works for the Asian Times, or at least his work appears in Asia Times and has more, I guess, a connection to all the stuff. So maybe he can have that guy come on and kind of have, I guess, another side to the story and kind of be like, well, I think we should be careful. I don't know. We shouldn't be spouting out all the stuff, and because it was like that one girl going on and basically testifying, well, the babies in incubators, and everyone's like, oh shit, well, I guess that's true. We gotta go do something about this. And then you find out, there wasn't anything like that. Wow. And then you find out that girl was like the daughter of someone, and it's just like, oh, okay. I mean, of course, back then we didn't have like DuckDuckGo or Google or anything like that to kind of search that stuff out. But if you're gonna say that you're this investigative, I mean, look. You can have episode where okay, we're going to have this side. And then on this one, we're going to have this side. Because, I mean, Tim Pool went on Joe Rogan Experience and talked to Jack Dorsey and the lawyer of Twitter or whoever she was, and basically was saying, well, I don't think what you're doing is right. And, of course, Twitter gave their side. So maybe do something like that. Have someone be like, I think what's happening with the Uyghurs is bad, and we got to do something about this. And then someone else can say, well, you do realize that maybe the Chinese government sees the Uyghurs as more valuable alive than dead. Why would they kill them all? Why? Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. And also, why would America go out and try and threaten this? Because I mean, as far as I know, China has nukes, right? Or at least they have some kind of capabilities for it. So I don't know if America or even China would want to go into some nuclear war because. I mean, look what happened with Saddam and Gaddafi. I think Gaddafi was that prime example, right? It's like, oh yeah, if you get rid of your nukes, you'll be okay. And then what happened? What happened to him?
Well, Scott I can't claim this point as my own because Scott told it to me, but he said why it doesn't make any sense as to why China would kill a bunch of Uyghurs because they're Muslims. And one thing about Muslims is that they generally speaking, they tend to see all Muslims as part of the same kind of family. It's the same with, Jews are that way. Christians are that way. There's the different sect divide. I get that. But why would China risk pissing off the entire Muslim world by committing genocide against a group of Muslims if they have their Belt and Road Initiative running directly through the Middle East?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that they're already pissing all the Muslims off by having all this military involvement in the Middle East, and then whenever someone here in America, especially if it's someone who's a Muslim and they commit a terrible violent act here, everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't! Why would this happen?" It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you should look what's going on over there.
Yeah, no, and it's from what I understand about the Belt and Road Initiative. Yes, I think China's going to be building the literal highways and trade corridors and stuff, but it's widely dependent on the local governments to help with it. So it's I mean, of course we're not going to be able to build a huge trading corridor through a country if that country doesn't want us there. So yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like when this Duma gas chemical attack happened in Syria.
Right.
It's it happened right when Bashar al-Assad and Russia was just kind of getting through, scooping up and getting rid of all of the ISIS terrorists at that time, right? So it'd be like, okay, well, why would Assad gas his own people now? There's that famous thing of Thomas Massey getting on with the CNN reporter, right? I don't know if you remember this, but he got on with the CNN reporter and he's talking about, we have no idea what's going on over there. It's a war zone. Like, there's bombs being dropped and there's weapons caches in basements of all these buildings. And we have no idea. It could have been, we're hearing that it's an errant bomb that just fell, and that's what expelled these gases. And she's just like incredulous. She's like,
"Oh yeah,
what? Who do you think is behind? Who do you think is behind it?" And he's like, "Frankly, I don't think it makes sense that Assad would do this to his own people. He's about to win."
Yeah. And she's like, "I can't believe you're saying this. Are you backing Bashar al-Assad?"
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Tom Massey.
Yeah, she's like, okay, get him off the screen,
right?
Yeah, because you made a point. I didn't think you were gonna. I thought you were a Republican. I thought you were gonna be all in on this,
And even more, I mean, Assad knows that chemical weapons is the one thing that would get him international condemnation.
Yeah.
That's like I don't know, is it the UN or NATO's red line in the sand? It's like, you use chemical weapons, we're going to come after you. Never mind that we gave, Saddam Hussein chemical weapons to slaughter the Iranians with in the 80s. Anyways.
Can't say that.
But that undisputed history that you can find in any textbook that no one knows about, including me until 2 years ago. Like, come on.
That whole thing is crazy how they'll push all this. And yeah, because I mean the corporate press, they're definitely all in on it too. Yeah. And I'm sure they've been pushing this as well. I mean, I don't have CNN or Fox News, so I don't know. But I would probably guess that they're probably spouting out the same
answer. They are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The BBC, Reuters, CNN. I don't know about Fox. The Epic Times definitely is. I'm just trying to look. I listed a whole bunch of.
Well, I mean, they call
The Guardian, New York Times.
Yeah, all the usual suspects.
Yeah,
they call Joe Biden Beijing Biden.
Right. Yeah.
So, and maybe not the New York Times, but like a lot of the right wing and the conservatives, they'll call him Beijing. Oh, he's a. It kind of sounds familiar from someone else that was president a while back. It's not kind of, he's a puppet of Russia. And then with Joe Biden, China's giving him all this money. He's gonna do this. It's just like I feel like it's just a bunch of fear mongering because when Donald Trump was president, they'll say, "Oh, we're gonna go to war with Russia." We can't have that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the other way around. It was like because Rachel Maddow was saying, "Oh, Russia is a big boogeyman." Ooh, Donald Trump's doing Putin's bidding, and now it's probably the other way around where Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden's like 1,000-year-old skeleton by now, I guess China thinks he's the one guy we gotta have him. That guy right there, Joe Biden. We're gonna have him do our bidding. Now, another thing too that I want to mention is that. So, say for example, America decides for some stupid reason they decide that we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna push the button. We're gonna make sure that we're gonna go in there and we're gonna get these people out. So what makes them think that there isn't gonna be some blowback on this?
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It will happen. I don't know exactly what it seems to me that the impetus would be to stoke some kind of a separatist movement. There definitely could be blowback.
Well, especially with like your sources, but the people you were mentioning about the CIA and all these government agents, U.S. government agencies being over there and helping them and funding them and all this stuff. It's almost like they're trying to create a new enemy because we have one in the Middle East, and I know there's been talks of pulling out, but who knows when that's going to happen at this point. But now they're saying, okay, we're kind of getting bored of the Middle East. Let's try to make this new enemy over here because we're in the Middle East right now. But oh boy, this one over here in the Asian side, man, that looks really good right now. We got to get some over there.
I think that this it could have already happened, because I don't know if it was in the 2000s, there was in that interview with Eric Margulies in 2008, Eric Margulies or Scott Horton mentioned something about how it was very famous that there were a bunch of Uyghurs in Gitmo. And there had been a lot of hay that was made about that in the early 2000s. So, one thing about the international, like the Al Qaeda movement, is that they're all international terrorists. So we might have already seen the blowback from this.
Yeah.
Because they all went to Syria and went to go fight there. Now they're kind of headed back. We haven't seen any of these Uyghurs commit some kind of terrorist act in the United States that I know of. But again, I'm not the expert on this,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a real possibility. I mean, one thing, if I've learned anything, it's that there's no coherent strategy that the United States has. I mean, in the 80s, it's funding the Mujahideen, and then that really blew up in our face. And then it's like, choosing to back the Shiites when we invaded Iraq, and kind of, I don't know, doing an about face on that. It seems like killing Soleimani, and Iran was supposed to be the enemy the whole time. So why are we, invading Iraq basically to de facto help out Iran's influence?
Well, also, like Saudi Arabia had a lot to do with all this terrorism stuff, but we're allies with them, so we have to continue that friendship, even though they're doing all this bad stuff. But no, yeah, Iran's is this close. I swear, they're this close from getting a nuclear weapon. They're this close. This close.
And they're the world's number one sponsor of terrorism. Well, so you had mentioned earlier that the allegation against Trump of being Russian puppet, and then Beijing Biden. How come no one's talking about the influence that the Israel lobby in Saudi Arabia has on our politicians? Or why is it always China or Russia?
Well, because anytime you mention Israel, you're just going to be called names. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Or it's like, I can't even have a conversation with these people. I can't even have a conversation with you about this. Like, can I at least? It's like when we say too. So, well, we're not saying it's the people. We're just saying it's always the governments. The government's the one that are pinning these people against each other. Because I'm sure if you met some person is in Israel, they go, oh yeah, America, great. Or if you went to China, most of the time, oh wow, you must be rich because you're an American. Oh man, you must have a lot of money. Because that's usually the stereotype they think of. Oh man, like if you go to Thailand, oh shit. Originally $2 for you, $6 because you got the money because you're an American, But yeah, so if you mention the Israel lobby like you were just saying, well, I can't talk to you because you're an anti-Semite and you must want all Jews to die. It's like I didn't say that. I wasn't saying that. I'm saying that, like you're saying, there's an Israel lobby. Just the fact that there's one there, and it's one of, if not the most powerful one there is. There's like the gun control lobby, and I'm sure there's other lobbies out there. But yeah, Israel lobby is one that's it's a major influence, and you see that it's one of the few things that Republicans and Democrats can pretty much get behind on. I mean, Kamala Harris spoke at AIPAC. She's like, oh yeah, Israel, yeah, we got to keep the Israel alliance strong. What about the Palestinians? Screw them, who cares? And look, I'm not trying to say that I know everything about that situation. So if anyone wants to give me information about why I should be more pro-Israel or anything like that, then yeah, I'll be open to that information. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. And I feel like I shouldn't mention this, but I'm going to anyway. There are libertarians who are pro-Israel and then pro-Israel. I'm like, pro-Israel government, like why? And it's like, because I heard someone go like, yeah, well, I'm pro-Israel, and if anyone doesn't agree with me, well, fuck them. I'm like, what? Like, why would you even say that?
Right.
Like, because Sheldon Richman with that book Coming to Palestine, and just the fact that he's basically stating the case that this should be the libertarian argument. But I guess some libertarians feel that's not the case. I don't know. I think it's really weird that when it comes to any other country, you can say, well, I think the government. I mean, they will criticize the Chinese government all the time, and of course you should definitely do that because the Chinese government is not good. It's not friendly. But why am I not allowed to say, well, I think what Israel's doing, the government over there. I mean, a prime example is there was that story as talking about the vaccines, and I know libertarians go all uptight about the vaccines, but just this thing here, they're saying, yeah, we're gonna give the vaccines to the Jews first,
right?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Or I don't know, the priority to roll out vaccines for the poor and minority communities.
Right.
I don't know. Eugenics, man.
And I've learned some things about that stuff that I'm not going to mention, but I've learned some things about like Israel and Palestine and just the people in general that I'm like, so we've been lied to this whole time. We've been lied to this whole time. Okay, so what else have we been lied to about? Right. It's like a rolling snowball and it keeps growing. Well, what else have we been lied to about? It's kind of going back to the whole libertarian thing. Oh, go there and it's like a domino effect. Goes more.
Yep.
So yeah, and I don't know. Has any other leader not named the president of the United States? Have they also what other leader has spoken in the actual hall that the president gives the State of the Union other than the Israel leader? I don't know. Has anyone else done that?
Oh, I have no idea. Like Netanyahu did that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, who else other than that has done that?
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, you almost like, is it a situation like with black people where if you are a conservative black person or a libertarian, and you speak out against, the social justice stuff, they attack you even harder? Is it like that if you're a Jew who's against the Zionist agenda?
Right.
I would think
it's probably, probably.
I really need to buy Sheldon Richman's book. There's like a few acute holes in my foreign policy knowledge, and one of them is the Israel-Palestine situation. Like, I couldn't sit down and give you a spiel about it even.
It's like you were saying, it's one of those things where it's like they're saying, well, you're over there, but you should be over here. I don't know why you're over there talking about how all gun control is racist. I can't believe you're saying that. Why would you say that? That's not what we're all about. Or why are you talking about private property? I don't understand why you're saying that. Or why aren't you agreeing with the Zionist agenda again? I don't understand. Like, I thought you were one of us. I don't get it. I thought we were, like, where did you learn this information from? And then they'll silence you and you never hear from them again.
It always comes back to first principles. Whenever I have a conversation with someone where we disagree politically, right. I try and, it's like what Larkin Rose does, where he does his like candles in the dark, because every political conversation boils down to those first principles. And I don't know, of course it's the best place to start. If you're going to try and make the case, you got to boil it down to who's aggressing against whom.
Yeah, well, there you go. So we'll go ahead and end it here. So go ahead and just plug all the things that you have and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. So I'm a contributor at the Libertarian Institute at libertarianinstitute.org/Patrick is my stuff. But there's a lot of great other shows there, like, of course, Scott Horton, Keith Knight, Pete Quinones, Kyle Anzalone, and Tommy Salmons. So go check us out there. Otherwise, you can reach me at libertyweekly.net. Again, I'm a practicing attorney, licensed to practice in the state of Wisconsin. I covered libertarian legal theory on the Liberty Weekly podcast, which is my show. I do a bunch of other stuff too, try to keep it interesting. So it was really great to be on tonight with you, man. I'm glad we could reconnect. And There's a lot of stuff we could still talk about, but
yeah, I know. But it's just like, oh boy, looking at that timer, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I was like, damn, this is crazy.
No, for sure. We didn't even get to half the stuff we wanted to talk about, but that's how it works. I think it was a really good conversation, though.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. And for all those watching and listening that got to this point after almost 2 hours, this is great. We're gonna could have been going to the Joe Rogan territory, but I'm like, nah.
Oh yeah. I don't have any cigars on me, so
no weed or any like some kind of alcohol or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Or some kind of outburst like Alex Jones or anything like that. But anyway, yeah. So thank you everyone for watching and listening and for supporting our show. You can subscribe over on YouTube, or you can also find us over at Odyssey and BitChute, and just all the links will be in the description if you want to go support us as well. So yeah, again, thanks Pat for coming on. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time to let you know what's happening.